So I've got a collection of Toy Story, He-Man, different figures. Got a load of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle over there, and I've got Ghostbusters down here. And rather than just sticking them on a shelf, I like to make a diorama. So what I'm using is these purple insulation boards, inch thick, just under an inch. But you basically scribe them with a pencil to make these shapes. I'm making a brick pattern. Can do the whole thing, and then you run over it with aluminum foil, which I'll show you next. So using a pencil and a ruler, you scribe the surface just to put indentations in and make it look like bricks, and then you use a ball of aluminum or aluminium if you're in England foil and just roll it over the surface, and what you end up with is texture like that. So you just put it on the surface, roll it around as a ball like that. There's some really good tutorials on YouTube. But yeah, you can see that that's smooth, that's not. Once you've done the whole thing, go over it, score it again with a pencil just to make sure the lines are really defined, and then hit it with some primer. So once you've gone over the whole thing with your aluminum ball, you get something a bit like that. You get some texture on it. So all I'm going to do now is hit it with some filler primer, give it just a one coat of primer, thin coat, then I can start airbrushing. And I know if you watch my channel a lot, people will be thinking, you've got a million projects, why are you doing this now? You know, it's going to take a couple of hours. But I've had an injection in my ankle today, and I've got to stay off of it as much as I can. So I can sit on the bed or on a chair and airbrush to my heart's content. It's been on the list as to-dos forever, this thing. But I say it's just so I don't have to display my action figures on a shelf like everybody else does. I want to make a miniature scene, a diorama. I'm not trying to recreate anything faithfully from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Just trying to make it look a little bit like a sewer. It'll make sense. Just using a paintbrush and threw on some reddy brown acrylic paint. I'm just using Walmart's cheapest acrylic paint. Mix it up, brush it on, let it dry, and then I'll start airbrushing. Done it with a lot of bricks at the moment, but it will do by the time I'm finished. And then that's the top piece and that's the base. So again, just using that purple foam, gone over it with a knife, cut some recesses in it, gone over it with the tin foil, put some texture in it, then run a lighter, some heat down there, just shrinks all the edges. And then, as Bob Ross would say, it's your world. There's no wrong in it. So I'm going to paint this a light grey because that's the ceiling. This will be a dark grey to look like slabs, and then this is going to be the sewer, which lines up with this. It's going to get painted. There'll be a pipe in here. It'll all make sense. But yeah, literally I'm going to airbrush these, then start light, go darker, put some texture in them, and it'll make sense when it's all done. But all I'm using is, say, throwing some primer on it just to seal the foam, and then I'm going to airbrush with acrylic or brush paint, whatever, with acrylic. But yeah, this looks, you can see how thin the paint is, you still see the grey through it. But once this is dried, I shall then start airbrushing with different colours of reds and browns, and the longer you spend on it, the better it looks. So far all I've made is the base and the top. The top will make sense in time. Just trying to work out layout and that. So then I've got to make two sides. I just want to test everything for fit, and then there'll be glass in the front, same as He-Man and Toy Story, and these all light up. We're in the arcade currently. So yeah, you can see the red brick looks pretty. You can see the recesses and that, but once I've airbrushed all this and then put the black lines back in, the mortar lines, it'll make more sense. But yeah, just trial fit and then make the sides now. So with the main arcade lights off and just the diorama lights on, you get some kind of idea of how this will look. I've got plans to put Splinter high up because there's a lot of room above it. But yeah, that's coming on. And then Ghostbusters I started, and that's my plan over the next 3 days, is to do some on Ghostbusters too. When we get these figures, this diorama finished. You see the bottom, I just made it look like asphalt kind of thing. And then I'm going to make an end there and an end on this side, and then do some detail on the brickwork. So all I've done is hit the brick with some brown and some red, just randomly with the airbrush, and then going over each of the mortar joints with a black spray on the airbrush. And what happens is eventually it looks like, hopefully it looks like real brick. When it goes on wet it looks pretty bad. So I'm just using a cheap eBay airbrush. I think it was like $20, something like that, not a lot of money. And I've gone over and sprayed some various shades of brown and red and pink on the brick. And what you end up with is, when you go over it with a black, I'm airbrushing the joints. It looks messy now, but as it dries it will fade back a bit. And it actually, you can see the joints, it kind of, by the time it's lit from above, it should look more like brick. So, work in progress. So I've given the brickwork a couple of different colours, painted the mortar. You see it looks totally random like brickwork does. It's going to get a satin paint on top of this, but I'm also going to do some weathering on it. Given the base just one colour so far. So I'm going to give this a couple of colours, some greens and some greys, and then black wash in all the recesses. And then this is just same foam, carve it about with a knife, and then put a lighter on it and it melts. Be careful of the fumes, and they'll get painted like rock. And then there'll be a pipe in here, there'll be slime flowing down and coming this way, so that they got like a divide. And then I've got to do something with the ceiling to try and make this look like they're trying to escape with April. And then do an end and do an end. But yeah, it's weird on the camera. It looks like there's a blank spot there, but in real life it doesn't look like that. But yeah, your brickwork hasn't got to be perfect. It don't really matter. Put the flash on just to give you some idea of, yeah, you can see texture on that in the brickwork. So I just think it's better than putting toys on a shelf. That's just me.